Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Super Lady Hero Hour here on FANVERSATION. I am your host, Yael Teagle. I'm joined as always by KB. Hello, KB.
Hello, and thank you everyone for joining our show. It's going to be a doozy.
Yeah, we have so much to talk about. We have Amazon's Invincible. We have Falcon and Winter Soldier. Batwoman came back. Black Lightning came back with a spin-off backdoor pilot for Painkiller. The Flash is here. Supergirl is here. But first, we have some news. So let's get into our headlines. We have some casting news coming out of DC. Do you want to take this one?
So Lucy Liu is joining Shazam! Fury of the Gods. So super excited about this casting. She's actually going to be playing Helen Mirren's sister, and they are the villains. So quite frankly, I am caring less and less about Shazam and, the superheroes of the film and more about the villains, which Shazam actually is one of my favorite from the DCEU. I mean, I surprisingly enjoyed it a lot, but I also went in there with, little to no expectations. And so, this is really shaping up to be exciting. And of course, when they did DC Fandom, there was like a teaser that Sinbad himself would also be in this. And then of course, Sinbad actually had a heart attack, but he is recovering and kind of on the mend since then. So I'm still hoping that this will be the case and, he'll still get to participate. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I love Lucy Liu and I want her in more things. So this is very exciting news. I guess we should also real quick touch upon other DC casting news. As always, Black Adam has added casting. Shocker. So we have some news that stand-up comedian Mo Amer is joining in a mysterious role. It's being kept under wraps. So far, we have announced Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate, Aldous Hodge as Hawkman, Noah Centineo as Atom Smasher. We just have so many people joining this. That was me stopping the list of there's so much more. Yep, more casting for Black Adam, which is so far huge.
And also we still know nothing. So that's my favorite part of it. Every week we get more casting and yet we have no idea what this film's going to be like. But the suspense of it all, I actually think it's probably going to be exceptionally good. And so I'm looking forward to it. And then of course, I think what we do kind of know is hopefully it'll build up to like a Black Adam versus Shazam type film. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Also in casting, we talked a little bit about the Toxic Avenger movie that was being discussed, if you may recall, with Peter Dinklage playing a character named Toxie. I remember how much KB loved that nickname. Just loved it. Well, Jacob Tremblay is joining the cast. You may know Jacob Tremblay as the small child from the movie Room. I think he's done other things. He's going to be voicing Flounder, I believe, in
yes.
the new live action
so cute
Little Mermaid. Yeah. And big DC TV news, Legends of Tomorrow, a trailer has dropped, and season 6 is going to premiere May 2nd. I'm so excited about this show. I've missed it so much.
2 weeks away, man, coming in hot. So it's interesting, we just kind of keep subbing one show for another one here in the DC TV verse that's happening here. So yeah, excited to see what they come up with for the next season. It's always crazy.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, before we jump into what we talk about, I think we should give a spoiler warning.
Yeah. So before we dive in, this is your full spoiler warning. We are going to spoil everything about the shows we mentioned. I am not giving the rundown. Yael did a really great job earlier, but it is a lot of shows. And so if you have not watched any of them or one of them and you don't want to be spoiled, then you should probably pause this video for now, catch up on your favorite TV shows, and then come back to us so that you can get the deep dive review into your faves. So we are going to kick it off this week with Supergirl. Here's the quick cap for episode 3, Phantom Menaces. So Supergirl makes a new ally. Lena and Lex battle for control over Luthor Corps. How are you feeling overall about episode 3?
There are some things that I really was interested in and really liked, and some things that I shouted, "Why are we still dealing with this?" That would be Lex. Lex is the answer to that one. Why are we still dealing with Lex? I don't understand. But I really did like this new guest we had in the Phantom Zone, Mixie. I liked her. I don't trust her. I'm so excited about where this is. I don't know where it's going, and I'm very excited to see where that goes. Like, that was what had my interest. Jean's whole thing for the past 2 episodes is very upsetting. So Magan was like, stop being a father and be a soldier. And so now his everything is, but I'm a soldier. So he's like, Alex can't be sad. She can't be a sister. She needs to be a soldier. Magan, don't do this. Follow orders. We're soldiers. And then Magan gets hurt. And I'm like, why did this happen? This was so unnecessary.
And he's like weeping. So it's like, you're not even taking your own advice of being a soldier. I mean, like, truly, which I am all for emotional maturity, but like, you cannot keep pounding this I'm a soldier kind of mentality. And then, you know, Magan gets injured and you break down immediately. Which is it, sir? Which is it?
Yeah. There were, again, things I did not care for and things that I was interested in. And I feel like we spent too much time on the things I didn't care for.
I'm going to second that. So, gosh, overall, wow. I was just kind of like, meh. So I feel like, yes, Mixie, Princess Mixie, or at least she says she's a princess. Right. Honestly, it could all be a lie. Who knows? But I'm just going to call it Princess Mixie right now. So Princess Mixie is an interesting character. I don't trust her because her magic somehow just reappearing at the very moment that they needed to save Kara's father seems wildly suspicious. Also, the amount of trust that Kara is putting into her and how she immediately revealed herself and her backstory and all of these additional layers about her, I thought, wow, this seems unnecessary. And also seems like a very, very Barry Allen move. And also seems like it's going to bite you in the behind later on. So, to your point, yeah, I'm kind of like on that. But it was intriguing. Their dynamic is intriguing, and I do like to see that. I am so sad that the vampire is now dead and we have the rise of a phantom. I was really actually looking forward to more of the vampire stuff because I kind of like that layer. But I kind of figured how we ended last episode that, you know, probably die. Surprise, now phantom. So that was kind of intriguing to me. The rest of it, I was like, I feel like the scene with Brainy and Lena, and he has this emotional breakdown after he had just told her the like 5 different ways that they could kill Lex and get away with it. And then he starts crying because he's so angry and he hates him so much. I was like, this is not done very well. Like, I just was not emotionally attached to that moment, to that scene, to this part of Brainy, which it's interesting because I do think we need to see some additional layers to Brainy. So that would have been nice. But this being the avenue, it wasn't teed up well, in my opinion.
Yeah, the way that it was done felt like he was trying to prove a point to Lena. Like, not that he was like, we should kill him. It was like he was trying to be like, okay, this is how you feel, like you're wrong and here's why. And like, it just wasn't done right. It felt weird.
I was like, no. And then of course, to your point, I'm completely over Lex. Like, if I never see Lex again on this series, I'll be fine. And again, I say it time and time again, it literally has nothing to do with the actor. It's more so that like the Lex content from a writing perspective is just lacking, in my personal opinion. So, you know, innocent people always get hurt when Lena and Lex are at odds. And, you know, I think Lena's choice to leave Luthor Corps is telling in the sense that she believes that she's kind of eliminating, you know, kind of, I guess, the additional casualties that always come when they are head to head. Little does she know that, like, that's still not going to work. So, you know, because your brother is truly a sociopath. So there will be additional casualties. Like, so I'm curious to see kind of where this takes her. But otherwise, yeah, I thought the episode was like kind of slow and not ironed out very well. So I am looking forward to, I mean, you know, we did see kind of the previews for next week, and I am looking forward to having Kara back. It seems like, based on those previews, that she will return to Earth, and, you know, those that love her. I guess the only question really is, will Mixie be joining her on this Earth? And what does that mean? So yeah, any more thoughts before I guess we get into rating it?
No, let's rate it. Here on Super Lady Hero Hour, we rate everything on a scale from poop to kittens. And I know where I stand on this, but where are you rating this episode, KB?
I'm gonna give it a spoon, because I think it was pretty much half and half for me. You know, the things that I did enjoy and I was intrigued by, cool. The things that I did not care for, I truly did not care for them. There's no salvation for that in my mind. I'm like, okay, so it's pretty much, you know, kind of cut and dry for me, like very in the middle for an episode. How about you? How are you rating it?
I am also giving it a spoon. I really was interested in, you know, Kara being Kara, of like trusting whoever is available. Like, she's going to trust them and tell them everything because that's who she is. And she's the, you know, forever optimist. So like that, and the fact that clearly Princess Mixie, like there's something wrong, and that she's trying to escape, and that it didn't occur to her to use her magic orb to break her shackles before this moment. And she's been there for years. Like, ooh, there's something suspicious, and I'm excited. So that I loved. Everything else I did not care for. The Phantoms, I like the idea that we found out that the Phantoms actually were this alien race that got stuck in the Phantom Zone and thus became the Phantoms. I think that's interesting. That's it. That's the only thing about it that was interesting, was tying it together with the fact that they're all aliens.
Yeah. And it's like, surprise, more aliens. What are we going to do with them? I guess I'm kind of like, for me, and this will segue into how I feel about predictions, I'm still wildly unsure about, you know, this is the final season. What does that mean? So far, I feel like we've had little to no progress in terms of character growth for anyone. I mean, I literally mean anyone. I don't say that as saying like, hey, one character is kind of stagnant. You know, I really don't see anything new happening for any of the characters in terms of character growth that would really kind of warrant the end of a series where I'm like, oh, this feels really good. You know, this feels very final and fleshed out. I say all that to say, hopefully, you know, for the next episode, when we see Kara back, I am really hoping that her time in the Phantom Zone with her father, even her interactions with Mixie, fundamentally kind of change her in ways that we'll be able to see her grow as Kara and as Supergirl as the series kind of wraps up and concludes. How do you feel predictions wise?
I agree. I think that the biggest growth we had was Alex asking what's her face to move in with her.
Which really was like,
okay, great. Cool. This was all right. I guess this was a big step. Weren't you engaged? Like, all right. So yeah, I feel like we, as you said, we're on the final season. Something should be happening. We should be building towards a finale, and we aren't yet. I do think next episode, Princess Mixie is going to be the twist of the episode. There's something up with her trying to escape for some reason, and I cannot wait to see what that is. And then I hope, I mean, it would be cool if she comes and becomes the big bad. Like, why not? She knows all of Kara's secrets. Let's do it.
I mean, so far
we don't have a big
bad, and it's Lex.
Right. So. We don't have a new big bad, and I don't understand why. And if Lex continues to be the big bad, then I'm disappointed.
Yeah. Well, I can't say I disagree.
All right. Well, let's move along to our next show. It is time to talk about The Flash. Here's the quick cap for episode 7, Growing Pains. When a mysterious ice-powered enemy frames Frost for a brutal crime, she must find a way to clear her name. Elsewhere, Barry and Iris have a surprise house guest, and Joe continues to deal with Kristen Kramer. What did you think of this episode overall?
It was okay. I tend to not like Frost-centered episodes because I think that they are wildly underutilized in a lot of ways. And I I mean, you know, we've been saying kind of for the last couple of weeks, once we were introduced to Kristen Kramer, it became very clear that there was going to have to be some sort of choice between Caitlin and Frost. I am surprised. I will say, you know, I thought that either one would die. They would fuse back together. You know, I assumed it would be something like that. So it's interesting that all of the villains, I'm still going to put her in quotes because I guess she is technically a villain turned superhero, but all of the villains have gone soft this season. So, you know, the fact that she's like, I will just turn myself in is like, oh, that's interesting, because in the beginning of this episode, you were willing to kill someone to clear. So and in fact, you technically, with the introduction of Mark, who, it was so odd that, for me personally, that they tried to make her attracted to him. I was like, what's happening here? But it's interesting because technically she was okay with killing Mark and how that scene played out. And the only thing that saved Mark was Barry bandaging him. So it's real interesting that now within 30 seconds, I might add, because 30 seconds earlier, you did kill him with, you know, an icicle, or you were willing to. Now all of a sudden it's like, I'll atone for my sins. So I don't know. I'm kind of like, okay, what's happening here? What's much more intriguing to me is what's going on with the Speed Force. Why can't the Speed Force be trusted? Because it's also just an interesting concept. Like, this is the force that gave you your powers. What's happening? Barry's mistrust of the Speed Force is warranted, in my personal opinion. And it's interesting. It has to be warranted because Barry never mistrusts anyone. So it's almost kind of like this one time where Barry is like staring Iris in the face, like, don't invite her to any more things. And Iris is ignoring it. It's real interesting. I also think it's really kind of out of character for Iris to not even consider that Barry would not want a woman with his mother's face staying in his house. I was like, that doesn't actually seem like anything that Iris would do. Like, she's always consciously considering the fact that his mom died, and that weighs very heavily on him. So for her to be like, stay with us, but you never consider that he would be apprehensive about it and probably does not want this person with his deceased mother's face staying with him is interesting. So yeah, the whole episode I was like, okay. They also did that thing where they had to say where Cisco was. When I was
like, I heard it, went, ooh, KP's not gonna like that.
I mean, literally every time it happens, I'm like, I don't care. Just like, he's not here, and that's okay. People are other places. But yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of like meh about this episode. How did you feel?
I was also meh, but I was the opposite. I think that like the Speed Force being there and there's something off and I don't know what it is yet. And her like showing up all the time when clearly when she's close, his powers go crazy. Like they're like magnets that you know, keep pushing apart. So like, why would she keep showing up? That's what I think was very obnoxious to me. The Frost Chilblain thing like was
worst name.
So
worst
weird. And I was fascinated by it. And I agree with you. We both thought that either they'd fuse back together or one of them would die and we'd be stuck with just Caitlin. I think the fact that Caitlin got arrested was interesting. The fact that Frost was ready to break her out was not a surprise. But I kind of wish like Caitlin had stayed in jail for a bit until they did all their tests and realized that it couldn't have been her. And that would have been the like solution.
I actually wish they would keep Caitlin in jail for much longer and Frost goes on the run. Like I would have preferred that like basically Caitlin takes the fall. Like,
right. Yeah. I think there was more that could have been done. Yeah. And it was disappointing. I agree with you. She spends the whole episode every time someone calls her Killer Frost, reminding them that she's never killed anyone, and then keeps suggesting people to kill. Which is something that, like, personally, I'd been saying since Frost was introduced to our Earth. I'd been saying like this Frost is not Killer Frost because Killer Frost has killed people. So the fact that it took us till now for someone else to be like, right, she hasn't killed anybody, therefore she can't be Killer Frost, which makes me wonder where these people got that name, because that name is the name of someone from a different Earth. Anyway, I just felt like it's odd that she spent so much time being like, I'm not a killer, and then being like, who are we killing?
I was like, this is an odd turn of events. Then I'm gonna kill Chillblaine. Then I'm gonna turn myself in.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you.
What is happening? Like, truly, what is happening? I think just, trying to figure out how to be more intentional with how they integrate all of the team members. Right. But there's a solution for that. Cut team members. It's okay. It can scale down.
Well, let's rate this episode.
How you feeling? I know how I feel. How do you feel?
I'm spooning it. There were parts that I liked. There were parts that I didn't. I didn't need a lot of it. In addition to cutting characters, they can cut storylines. What about you?
Well, luckily our dream will come true with this shortened ordered season, which I was hoping we'd get to the kind of, big bad. But yet this was episode 7. And I still don't understand the big bad, if I'm being transparent. So that is why. But what does that mean? Like, so I am, also giving it a spoon, because I was like, some things were just very out of character for these characters. And so I couldn't reconcile that. Like, I couldn't reconcile that with the rest of the episode, because I just kept thinking about how, like, these things would not actually occur with the characters that we've built up over the past 7 seasons.
Right.
The only one that I could is Barry, and his makes the most sense because, there's lots happening and he doesn't trust it, and I appreciate it.
I think so. Cecile were great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Always. I love their dynamic. I like that they're working together more. It's so interesting that, like, we could cut their entire child out. However, we can't cut any more characters. Like, maybe we should just scale in a bunch of different ways. Because to your point, we haven't seen Camilla, and now she's on vacation with Cisco. Well, she hasn't been here to begin with, so why do we feel the need to keep mentioning her? Wild. Okay, so The Flash is going on a bit of a hiatus. I believe it's 3 weeks. It is 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. So what do you think is going to happen for the next episode when it comes back from hiatus?
I think I'm assuming Frost is going to jail. Like, I'm assuming that's how we're getting rid of that one character, but no one else. We're not getting rid of anyone else, even though our team is too packed. I also would like all of the forces, whatever the bad guys are, I'd like to see them, and I'd like us to start dealing with that. That's what I'd like to do. That's not a prediction, but a hope. What about you?
So I actually disagree. I think Frost will be let off the hook in some sort of way, or technicality, or Team Flash ness. Mm-hmm. So I think that we will be dealing with both of them for much longer. And maybe she doesn't go to jail, but maybe she decides, I want to live my own life truly separate. I want to be free. I want to experience it now that I don't have to go to jail, and I've atoned for my sins. Now, like, maybe I move to a new city and start a new life or something like that. So I still feel like, I don't think she's actually going to go to jail. I also agree that I hope we start dealing with these forces. Clearly, Nora knows something. And whether or not that means that she is entirely bad, I don't know. I don't know if she's entirely bad or hopeless or what that means. But I do hope that she starts talking. Yeah. Or she slips up. And, we see, because she slipped up, that something else has occurred. But
I love that.
All right. So that's enough of The Flash. Now let's talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Here's the quick cap for the 4th episode. The whole world is watching. John Walker loses patience with Sam and Bucky as they learn more about Carly Morgenthau. How did you feel about this 4th episode? We are almost at the end. So how did you feel?
I loved this. I had such a good time with this episode. I thought it was so fun. The action was so good. The fight sequences were so cool. And it let everyone know that we were right to not trust John Walker, that he's a piece of crap. And I'm so happy. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was so fun. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say for now. What did you think?
Oh wow. Okay. I did not like it. Not that I hated it, but the storyline is still lacking. Like, you cannot have a show about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and they are truly the least utilized characters on the show and the least interesting ones on the show. So for me, I mean, I was hoping that this episode, writing wise, would bring us some additional information, some new things. One thing I appreciated, that we saw Sharon again, and we weren't just completely done. I appreciated that. I will always love to see the Dora Milaje in action. So yes, more of that. The action is never the part that's lacking. Zemo is never the part that's lacking. It's always these two main characters and the overall arching storyline. I actually did enjoy the heart-to-heart that Sam and Carly had. I thought that was great. But we've known from the beginning that we can't trust John. So the whole world is watching, okay. Like, we knew that John was this person fundamentally. He's proven himself to be that way. I guess the only thing that was really shocking to me in this episode was that Battlestar died. Otherwise, it's 100% predictable that Zemo would escape. Like,
right. I thought he was going to escape weeks ago.
Way sooner. Right. Like, way sooner than the end. Because I was like, okay. But yeah, overall, I'm really struggling with the writing on the show. And I'm also really struggling with the direction that we're going in, with only 2 episodes left. And also just in general with this phase, how this ties into the next phase or the current phase that we're in of the MCU.
Right. I agree with you that one-on-one with Carly and Sam, as anyone's seen me talk about shows, I'm usually not an emotional person. I don't like the emotional stuff. I enjoyed this conversation because we got to see the human side of her. We got to see Sam try to appeal to her. We got to see Sam, doing what the Avengers are supposed to do, which is help people, and hear their side and listen and try to figure things out and come to a solution. So I really loved that. John Walker interrupting and messing it up was not a surprise. Right. Him taking the super serum, not a surprise. Honestly, the fact that he wasn't given it already. Like, I was like, oh, interesting. What is the point if he doesn't have it? Then, what is the point?
Well, I think the point is they don't want him to have it.
Right.
But now he does. But it's interesting to me that he hasn't taken it yet. So when he's getting whooped by the Dora Milaje, it's interesting that I thought he would have taken it the moment that it was in his hand. Do you know what I mean? Like, he seems like the type very eager. But it's interesting that he's waiting. And then also, that he's upset. These women aren't even super powered, is what he says to Battlestar. Right. It's like, no, they're not. They're skilled and trained in combat. And I love that the Dora Milaje is like, when will you white people learn? Like, we can take back all of our vibranium, which literally controls every weapon in here. So, I mean, do you want us to? Like, it's also an option.
So after that scene, we have the scene where he talks to Battlestar and he's like, would you take it? Blah, blah, blah. I assumed that by the next fight, he had taken it already.
Oh, okay. That wasn't inherently clear to me.
No,
but
I mean,
maybe
that was not confirmed. That's just how I had understood it, especially the way that he fought in the next fight felt like he had taken it.
Okay.
In the fight where Battlestar dies.
But, so it's interesting because the only reason why I wouldn't think that was the case is because, remember, there's always kind of a lull when people take it. It's not just like you are automatically in that, like the body goes through kind of a bunch of different stages. Like, I remember watching Captain America, Steve's body, I mean, not only he is smaller, yes, but it's also because the serum is like essentially like mutating his DNA almost. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that, like, the only reason why I wouldn't assume that he's taken it yet is because it has to have some sort of impact on his body before he's just able to be like, it's like, It's not a fast process, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, there has to be some other phase that occurs where it might take him down for a minute and then, then bring him back up. Like, okay, I don't think he just would instantly be like, Yes, you know, and I
That's
think
fair.
too, I remember a conversation between Carly and someone almost kind of alluding to that earlier in the series. Like, you know, it was hard when we first took the serum, but like I feel like I remember that. But who knows what I remember at this point, because honestly, the writing is just like, you know, this to me. So I don't know. Like, I don't know.
I really enjoyed this. All right, let's rate this episode. I said it. I'm giving it a kid. I liked this episode. I had fun. The fighting was so good. All the fighting was so good. I just love it. I love a good fight sequence, and I don't really care for heart to hearts, but this heart to heart did it for me. So tells you what I prioritize.
Okay.
What about you?
This one I am going to give a spoon, but it will be leaning towards a kitten, literally only because of the Dora Milaje and that chat between Sam and Carly.
Right.
But the writing, again, I am fine with Anthony and Sebastian. I actually think they have a great chemistry together, but I do not know how you make your two leads the least interesting people in the whole series. Like, Zemo has way better comedic timing. Like, I mean, they're just giving Zemo so much material that he's becoming the fan favorite week to week. And I'm like, this is not even Zemo's show. Like, you are a side character. How? The writing. So I'm still going to give it a spoon, mostly because I can't reconcile this writing. I am like, please tell me what's going to happen in episodes 5 and 6, because I don't know. And I will go ahead and state that I literally have no predictions, because I truly do not understand what's going on. Like, I'm truly like, there's so many pieces and so many layers that we're leaving undone that every time I'm like, okay, like, I mean, I guess maybe next episode, you know, the US government will likely cover up for John Walker. That's probably where, you know, maybe they'll scrub some of that footage that's on YouTube from his meltdown. They will spin him into an American hero. So maybe that's my prediction, is that, you know, John Walker will be redeemed, as we often see sometimes in these scenarios, and will not necessarily be portrayed as a villain in the media. So what about you? What are your predictions?
Well, if I'm wrong that he hasn't taken the serum yet, then my prediction is that he will take the serum and thus turn into the big bad that we will have to fight in the finale. That is my new prediction, is that John Walker becomes our bad guy, which hopefully will let the US government know that no one else should be holding that shield. There is no other Steve Rogers. We cannot expect that.
I mean, well, I think at the end of this, though, the idea is that Sam will take the shield as it was given to him by Steve, in terms of like moving forward, and also because Sam was Captain America in a series run. So, you know, if anyone, Sam, but you know, they're reluctant for a black man to be the face of America. And that's really what the reality is. So here we are.
All right, next let's dive into Invincible. Here's the quick cap for the 5th episode, That Actually Hurt. Feeling confident with his new abilities, Mark risks a team up with a local villain to take down a crime lord while simultaneously juggling school and a new relationship. I enjoyed this episode a lot. I don't care for the personal drama. I like yeah, that's where I'm at, is I don't care for the personal drama, but I did like everything else about it. What did you think of this episode?
I enjoyed it. Enter Mahershala Ali as Titan, which I adore. Super excited about that. Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, I'm fine with the emotional things. We obviously know where it's headed. You know, Mark will ultimately leave his girlfriend to be with Adam Eve. It makes sense because superhero love. Like, only you understand why you're not coming anywhere on time for doing anything, is because you're both saving the world. So I am fine with that. I love Debbie being a detective, even though she's not a very good detective and she needs to watch her back a bit more often. But I appreciate it. And I'm just curious to see kind of what happens with Robot partnering with twins to learn more about replication, because we have robot with these blood samples, with that baby and that bat. So yeah, I'm curious to kind of see where that leads and where it goes. But ultimately, you know, I think the biggest twist was finding out that Titan is actually the big bad, not Machine Head. So, and that, you know, he basically set Mark up. And then also, of course, these poor Guardians, like, it always ends in, you know, near-death experiences. Mark, who, you know, is invincible, boy, did he take a full beating. I was like, woo, child, they spared nothing. Luckily, we don't have to worry about Mark, though, because he's half Viltrumite, so I'm sure he'll stay alive. But yeah, that was shocking. When he got beat up, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I really liked this Titan character's introduction. I hated that his dad was right. Not to trust him. I was so annoyed. I also am fascinated by the fact that he thought he saw his dad at the end, and his dad was obviously there watching and called the anonymous tip and like called the backup. Like, sir, you could not have just gone in and saved your son. Like,
no.
You try to teach him a lesson, you're being ridiculous.
In true sociopathic form. Like, right. Oh no, figure it out yourself. Figure it out yourself. You can do it yourself. And it's like, okay, but like part of parenting is actually parenting. And I realize now that like Mark's upbringing is mostly Debbie parenting and, you know, Nolan saving the world, but not necessarily having to have true parenting moments with Mark. And he thinks that's fine because he's a superhero, and it's not, clearly, because now he doesn't know how to be a father and a superhero. Yeah,
Debbie is one of the best characters in this. Her cleverness, her ability to like time out how long it would be. I thought it was so smart to be like, okay, pick up this.
Yes,
it's so good. I can't wait for her to expose the truth. I really enjoyed this, and I'm with you that this robot situation is leading somewhere, and I'm fascinated by his fascination with Monster Girl. Like, I'm very excited to see where that story is going. I'm
curious if this is like Cecil's bidding, because we saw at the end, like Machine Head, Cecil goes to Machine Head, retrieves the disc. It's hard to know what Cecil's bidding is in all of this and all of the layers, even with Titan. Like, because at the end of the day, Cecil could be working with Titan or funding, you know, Titans. You just don't know. So I am curious to know if this is Robot's own kind of curiosities, because he is a genius. He is creating a lot of things. Is it just like, oh, this is something I'm curious about creating? Or is it more of, you know, Cecil asked me to do this, so I need to?
Those are great questions. I think what's really interesting is when Titan was saying, or when Invincible was saying to Titan, like, I deal with world problems, not like community problems. And it made me wonder, when you were just talking about Cecil, like, is it possible that Cecil is, you know, funding these little local problems that aren't being dealt with by superheroes because it's helping fund Cecil or whatever, but like, you know, they're dealing with the global issues. So it's very interesting, because this show is basically no one is good. We still don't know who we can guarantee is a good guy other than Mark.
I think just Mark. Right. Like, I can't even. I mean, maybe Adam Eve.
Right.
Something about
and I would say
maybe
Mark,
Adam, but
Mark's is more of a naivety than just being good.
Because I think Adam's Eve is now at a point, she's been a superhero for so long that it's a choice. Whereas Mark is still so new to this that there's a level of childlike excitement. You know, I don't think that Mark truly understands the weight of responsibility. That's why he's able to do all the things that he's doing, is because he's doing it strictly based on his excitement. But she understands the sacrifices that you have to make, particularly with her family, with Rex, with being a student, with she understands the full scope. And it's interesting because no one listens to her, but she
Right.
literally understands how this happens. And so Mark should be using her, you know, kind of as a guide,
Right.
yet he still thinks he can put all of his trust in his father. And that's who he really needs to be concerned with. And he can prove himself to Cecil. But like, you need to have an honest conversation with Adam Eve about what it's like to be a teenage superhero, because you're navigating a lot more than just being a superhero. This is not your job. And also, no one's getting paid. I also want to point that out. Like, no one's making money. Mark, stay in school. Like, you have no money. So,
right. All right. Well, let's rate this episode. Where do you stand on this?
I'm giving it a kitten. Oh my gosh, I spilled something.
Oh no.
I was like, ah. So anyway, I'm giving it a kitten. I thought it was fun. I adored it. I'm curious to see what happens with Titan. I'm sure we're getting more character introductions here shortly. But how Cecil and Titan and Robot, if they're in cahoots, what that looks like, I'm super excited to see. So how did you feel about this episode? What's your rating?
I'm also giving it a kitten. I had such a good time. The big bad fight at the end was so good. There were so many new characters. The lava person, I was like, how do you fight this? What they need is an ice person, and they don't have that, or water. Like, oddly, you don't have that, and I felt that was very lacking. And it made me wonder if Robot was the best one to lead a team if he didn't think that you need an ice or water person, but you have multiple giant monsters. It just feels, yeah.
I thought the fight would be more even between Battle Beast, because Battle Beast was really the one who was destroying them. I thought it would be more even between Battle Beast and Monster Girl, because, you know, size wise and things, and like the way he just destroyed, I was like, oh. I was like, well, that's not what I thought was going to happen. So I don't know. This show is so unpredictable, though. So how do you feel about next week's episode?
Like you said, it's so unpredictable. I have no idea what to expect. I have no idea where we're going. I hope Debbie finds a way to not confront Nolan, but she knows, like, so Nolan has to be taken down. I just hope that can happen.
Take him down, girl. I actually wish she could communicate with Damien Darkblood. I mean, so that she could get more clues, like, and they could really, kind of, he can move in spaces that Debbie can't. And she needs that right now because she is legitimately sleeping with the enemy. So I feel like, I wish that they could team up. That would be my hope. But my prediction, obviously, Mark is going to survive. But he's going to not have a girlfriend when he comes to. And Adam Eve will be there to comfort him. I really feel like that's where we're headed next episode. So
I like it.
All right. Next, let's talk about Black Lightning. So here is the quick cap for the backdoor pilot of the 7th episode, Painkiller. So when Khalil's violent history crashes his idyllic new beginning, he is thrust back into action with a mission to bring justice where he once gave out punishment. How did you feel about Painkiller?
Okay. I love the idea of a character who has this duality of good and evil. I love this idea that we have this guy who is trying to live his life and do what's right, and he inside is arguing whether he is a murderer or a good guy. I think that's fascinating. I think the way that this was done was awful. I did not enjoy the way that this was played out. I do love this new Vegas-like city that is futuristic and has this high-tech excitement. I love that. I kind of don't understand in what world we're in. All of a sudden, it feels like we're on a different planet or a different future or something, which is fine, but I like this. I liked the crossover, the way that they crossed it over with Grace and Anissa. I like that it was their honeymoon. That makes sense that they would go to this, futuristic Vegas place. I love Painkiller and Khalil's team. I love them. The villain was kind of interesting. What they were doing was kind of interesting. I did not need her to be Odell's daughter, and I did not need Odell to be there. I feel like we had made such progress and moved away from Black Lightning, and it's such a disappointment that we had not. So that is how I felt about Painkiller. What about
Okay.
you?
So I enjoyed it for what it was. I have no idea where this would go as a series. So to your point, I think that this new world is shiny and exciting. I love that. I think the team is very well put together and very well utilized. I like that we have someone who has emotional intelligence. I like someone that has kind of a tricky past, but also has all of the connections. I like that Khalil really is kind of struggling with this duality in some ways. I think that I don't need to see Khalil versus Painkiller all of the time. Like, I think it was just a lot of the versus thing, which I don't necessarily need. I think once we establish that the duality is there, you can just kind of switch the voices, because that's what they were doing. They were switching the voices, and I think that that's more than enough and fine to kind of know that, okay, he's Painkiller, okay, he's Khalil now. So if this pilot gets picked up to series, I would like to see kind of that just be a bit more seamless. So I didn't hate it, but I have no idea where it's going. To me, it is intriguing that Maya is Odell's daughter. But I don't necessarily think that we need to see Odell again from here on out. I think it was great to kind of establish that, but she also needs to be her own villain who's not working under her father's thumb. I think that would be my biggest concern. I am always advocating for more women villains. And so I feel like that would be fantastic if we allowed her own type of agency in that regard. I think the show could work as well if we were able to see Grace and Anissa move to this city and join the team as well. I think that would be a better plot point. But yeah, so I think for what it was fine. It was too much of the verses for me though. But I think that the fight scenes were really, really good. Like, they were really, really good. And that was like a huge draw for sure. Jordan Calloway does a fabulous job when it comes to stunt choreography. And, he's such a nice person that I really hope that this show gets picked up just so that he has the ability to be able to carry it and we can see what these stories look like. But I still need more. I need to know more people who are going to be invested in it. Which characters from Black Lightning are we bringing over? Which new characters are we introducing? What is Maya's real goal? Because I don't think that was inherently clear, which I also think was intentional, though. Like, I don't think that, we only had 1 hour, which essentially is 40 minutes. And so I think it was intentional because they want you to want more, to want to see, the series picked up. So that way you can figure out kind of what her main goal and main objective is. But right now I just don't see what that is. So I'm kind of in the dark. So therefore I'm kind of like, well, is this going to be good? So I want to see more of that. So, I'm hoping we get an opportunity to. I mean, I love seeing, kind of Black and brown creatives get the opportunity to do more work. And naturally, I would assume that the majority of the Black Lightning fan base would come on over as well. But already it's next level in terms of stunt choreography. Like, already just the stunt choreography is like.
Yeah. And what I loved is when you saw Khalil fight versus Painkiller fight, there was a difference.
Different. Yes.
It was very nicely done. I also I think the part that like I said, I like this idea that there are two people, this multiple personalities in the same body. I think that's so fascinating. The moment where he's like, okay, you can take over. I was like, yes, that's great. That's fantastic. Them having a 5-minute discussion every time, like, and people being like, hello, I think that was obnoxious.
I was like, guys, we got to move this along. And then honestly, if they only had that versus in the very first 5 minutes, which it was, kind of like the white versus black, and you understand like the goodness versus the darkness. After that, I don't think we need it anymore. Like, if we could have just left, like, we would have understood moving forward what that meant. We didn't need anything else. So yeah, I'm hoping that they like iron that out for sure. So how do you feel? How are you rating it?
I'm going to give it a spoon. The spoon is leaning towards kitten. I did love the fights. I did love this shiny new world. I did love a female villain. I'm okay with her being Adele's daughter, but like you said, I don't want to see him again. Seeing him is what made me think, no, it's the same villain that we've had. We don't need this. We've moved on. So that was really disappointing. But You know, I'm a spoon. I could go either way. What about you?
So for this being the 7th episode of Black Lightning, I'm going to give it a kitten because I think that we did more in this episode than maybe we've done. Like, I felt like we did a lot in this episode in terms of the series. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't get to see everyone, but we saw enough, and they integrated Anissa and Grace seamlessly. And I was like, oh, okay. If we're just doing this as a standalone backdoor pilot, I would probably give it a spoon because I don't know where else it's going to head. I like it integrated as a 7th episode. This was probably the most exciting episode for me so far this season. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed that. And so the only reason why I would give it a spoon as kind of just a standalone, and if I never see it again, is just because, kind of where are we going? I guess that just wasn't inherently clear, like carrying this series on its back alone by itself. Where are we going? And I do hope that Maya kind of gets her just due, and Khalil, I'm hoping that each character has their own agency, and I think they worked well as a team and we got snippets of it, but I want to expand on that a lot more. And so they definitely intrigued me, but what will that look like in a series setting? So that's where I'm headed. And then also, of course, the action. Maybe that's why I had the most fun in this episode, because the action was like top tier. It was so just good. So good. Like, I was like, yay! So, yes.
Yeah, there was a moment where Maya says to her people, like, okay, let him through, but like slow him down, but don't kill him. And I was like, girl, like at this point, tell your people to just let him through. Otherwise, you're just losing people. Like, I thought
she doesn't care about them.
No,
right? She's like, who cares?
I thought she was calling to tell them, like, stop. He's taking out too many of you. But no.
Meanwhile, she's like, oh, I'm getting rid of my own riffraff because I was skeptical about them anyway. That's kind of how I felt. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna shave this down. Okay, so what do you think, now that we're back to our regular Black Lightnings, what do you think is gonna happen next episode for our regular characters?
I mean, I think Anissa and Grace will be back from honeymoon. I think this was the second time we saw Grace suit up as her superhero.
It's so interesting that when she turns into an animal, she just wears a suit. Like, I understand it. Listen, we all watched Wonder Woman 1984. So it is hard to turn people into animals CGI wise. So I'm not mad at it.
There are good ways to make Catwomen, and I'm very sad.
I'm not mad at it because I also love Grace's suit. But it's just so funny because out of nowhere, she's in this costume.
I mean, yeah, I like that she didn't need to be saved. Because I was like, really? Grace needs to be saved? Grace, who turns into a tiger, needs to be saved? All right. Or a cheetah, whatever she turns into. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know I don't have a prediction for where we're going.
I mean, listen, we're back in Freeland. They're dealing with new Jennifer. And no, they're dealing with Tobias still.
Right.
No one's infiltrating how they should. He's still alive when he should be dead. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking.
All right. Well, lastly, we have Batwoman. So here's the quick cap for episode 10, Time Off for Good Behavior. A new villain, Kilovolt, attacks a new community center, and Angelique gives up names in Forbes' assassination. What did you think of this episode? What was that face?
It was all right. The pace was really weird to me. Like, the pace seemed very off to me from like a normal Batwoman. So things that I'm tired of. Kate and Beth's dad. I don't care. Like, I mean that in the nicest way possible. I do not care because I think what they're trying to get us to do is like empathize with this man who was actually, and not just when Beth left, because I understand how grief works, but he treated Kate pretty terribly. Like when she came out and when she decided not to be a crow anymore. And, there's a lot of other layers and things. And he's almost kind of treating Mary the same way because Mary's not doing what he wants. And so he's really shutting her out. And so now it's real interesting that we're supposed to empathize with him because essentially you've made him one of the villains from season 1. So it's kind of like, okay, I guess. Sure. But what is intriguing, and I did like about the episode, I love that Enigma is the psychiatrist. Love that. Or the therapist, because I don't know her title specifically, but I love that she's the therapist. I think that that's a chef's kiss touch. I think that they plop in Julia Pennyworth at the most awkward times, and she has the potential to be a good character, but then they just plop her in random places, and then I'm like, what was the point? I like this new reporter whose name I've forgotten, so apologies, but I like this new reporter that's in town, and seems like Mary might get a little boo thing at the end, you know, where she's treating him and he got his job back and now he has healthcare again. So maybe he'll see Mary again. I don't know. But I'm like, ooh, maybe there'll be a love interest, even though I still ship her and Luke. Love that Luke got to do some action in this one. Appreciate that. And Angelique is still Angelique. I still don't like her. Still in the sense that I'm kind of like, girl, we need you to move on. She doesn't. And then, you know, well, Angelique gets kidnapped, as that was no surprise. I definitely knew that she was not just going to be able to walk away and start her life all happy.
Right. I agree with you. I think the Enigma stuff is really interesting. I think that's like really, I'm into that. Let's find out what's going on there. I like that because at first she was just a name that was said, and then we like saw her with Kate, and now being like, oh, she's actually like intertwined with this, which is very nice and interesting. I agree with you that that Papa Kane is boring, and he's a bad dad. Like, he's a bad dad, and
to all three of his daughters, because he's still like, at the end of the day, he knows that Alice is Beth. Like, you still also didn't even try to, I mean, he just is not a good dad.
Right. Like, at least Kate, like, even though Beth was bad, like, Kate always was like, she's my sister, I'm going to try to get through to her. Even when she was like, I'm done, she's still trying to get through to her. He's not, he gave up again on Beth.
I'm like, oh my gosh. And now we're supposed to care about him? That's my biggest thing. Like, as an audience, why would we care about him? I don't. I'm like, yeah. Oh, well.
I don't know why we would care about him. I do agree with you, the Angelique thing. It was obvious that she was going to get kidnapped, but I don't care. I really want her dead. Like, I want to kill off that character. And that Julia Pennyworth could be such a really good part of the story. Like, when it turned out, again, the Enigma thing, that she was like, wait, I've met this person. Wait, like, there's something here. And then she gets her memory wiped again. I'm like, well, now I feel like, what's the point? Like, what was the point?
I don't know. Because she's like, I'm leaving. And I was like,
right.
Okay.
Her memory is wiped again. So she's out of
town. But
town.
I'm also like, are you leaving? Because I don't know. I don't have the brainwave to.
All right. Well, let's rate this episode. Where are you rating this?
You know, I think I'm going to give it a kitten. You know, for the most part, it was enjoyable. I just did I really don't like Papa Kane stuff. Like, I'm like, oh well. But it was entertaining in the sense that Enigma, that reveal, and even though they don't know what they're doing with Julia, I still like Enigma's connection, if that makes sense. Like, to Julia. And I still like all the community organization work that's happening. You know, I like this new reporter. Someone on Twitter was like, oh my gosh, he's going to be the new Lois Lane for Batgirl. And I was like, or he could just be himself. But right. I like that he is here and I want to see more of him. I like that Luke had some physical agency and was not just, you know, kind of the tech and the brain. And, you know, I like also that Mary told her dad off. Because, you know, he wants things the way that he wants things. And so he's like, oh, I am being a good dad. You know, he has one therapy session with Enigma. Then all of a sudden he's like, I'm going to make amends. But then he doesn't actually listen to anything that Mary's saying or want to change. And she told him off. So honestly, that was worth the kidding alone, because Mary never tells people off. And she was like, listen, you are terrible and you only want things to go your way. So get out. And I'm like, thank you. So how are you rating this?
I'm not feeling so generous. I'm giving it a spoon. I did like her telling him off. I do like the Enigma stuff. I do want more of the Julia Pennyworth stuff. I don't like that dad's now an addict. Like, it's dumb. It's dumb.
I mean, you know?
Yeah. I did like the community stuff. I like this idea that the prison is corrupt. Like that
Oh, you
sounds,
mean like how
yep,
prisons are?
exactly. Exactly why I liked it. I was like, ooh, I like what we're saying here.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it wasn't, I was bored a lot. I was bored a lot. So
Oh,
I'm giving
okay.
this
Well, so what do you think's happening next episode?
I think that Black Mask unfortunately needs to keep Angelique alive. So I think she's surviving, which is like such a bummer.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh no, I don't think she's gonna die.
I
Yeah.
want her to.
Your dream come true is for Angelique to die. Got it.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I mean. My prediction is that I'm wrong. She's not gonna die. What about
Well, I'm
you?
hoping for like a grand, which I think we'll get because I saw the trailer, a grand Black Mask versus Black Woman head to head. So, I mean, it's not going to result in him dying. That would be too fast.
Right.
But I think it would help Batwoman understand what she's working with in terms of like what his true power, like I think that she's constantly dancing around and asking a bunch of people like, who's Black Mask? What does he do? Et cetera, et cetera. But she needs to face him to truly understand, I think, the depth of it. So
I also predict this new love interest that Sophie's sister introduced.
Right.
Ryan to. I like that.
Ciao. I guess going to be another triangle because I think Sophie will be involved in that too still. So here we are.
All right.
Here we are. All right. So let's get to Performer of the Week. So who are you rolling with this week?
I'm giving Performer of the Week this week to Peta Sargent, who played Princess Mixie on Supergirl. I loved this character. I feel like a fifth dimensional being is like a very difficult role to play because you have to balance being annoying but still being entertaining. And I think that she balanced it really well because she gave us that like mysterious wait, I think she's bad. So like she didn't annoy me. And I think that that's a very like careful line to walk. So I'm giving her my Performer of the Week because I want more of Princess Mixie so far. So that's really a good move. What about you? Who's your Performer of the Week?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Mary from Batwoman. Just telling off Papa Kane alone, enough for me. She's really grown so much. When I talk about the type of character growth that I want to see on Supergirl, I think of Mary on Batwoman.
Yes.
Because she has truly come full circle. She has grown leaps and bounds. This is what I want to see. And this took her to another level this week's episode. So
awesome.
Mary. Yep.
All right, let's talk about our character style icon of the week. I am going with Anissa's honeymoon outfit. The hair was so cute. And the dress, especially when you see her fighting and you can see the like cutouts and the slit, I was like, oh, everything about it. And the fact that the necklace looked like a collar to the dress rather than a necklace, I just obsessed. Yeah,
what about you? It was literally everything. Yeah, her honeymoon look was everything. It was really the only standout outfit I feel like this week in general. We've seen, and not saying Grace's outfit isn't BA, but we've seen Grace's suit is BA. Like there are a lot of good things, but mostly Mary is in a lab coat. And so I just, really felt like Iris is in a bunch of jackets or cardigans or sweaters lately. So I just feel like the clear choice was Anissa because it just flowed. The dress just flowed so well. I just adored it. So yes, the honeymoon look for sure. We're going to go with, I'm also going to go with Anissa.
Awesome. What was your OMG or WTF moment of the week?
I really didn't have one. I don't think that there was anything terribly shocking this week, if I'm being transparent. Sure. If I had to choose one, though, I would say, as I say every week, it feels like right now, Invincible. So, Mark actually getting like beat up to Kingdom Come, I think, was probably the most shocking. And then the twist with Titan was definitely like, oh, I mean, I wasn't like, but it was interesting that, he used his family as leverage to appeal to Invincible from an emotional standpoint, and is in fact the true supervillain. So, but mostly it was that fight. So I feel like every episode, the fights get me. What about you?
I agree. I think the Titan thing wasn't a surprise to me. I mean, it was like a twist, but it wasn't like I didn't see that coming. I was like, oh, bummer. But My WTF moment is more of a like, what? DTF question thing. And it was when Mark took his shirt off at the bar. I was like, why is this happening?
And, that whole thing. And with Hot in Here playing? What?
Yeah.
Like,
and her and him being like, take a picture. I was like, why? Mine was a why WTF. It was a why.
It was a no happening? For me. It was a no.
Look, he's 100% my type. And I was like, why is this happening?
It was a no because I was like, are we supposed to care about Frost's love life now? Like, it just didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense.
I was like, I was
why,
like, no.
That's why it's getting...
And not saying he didn't have a nice body. That literally wasn't the point. It was just like, I don't understand why we're here.
Yep.
Like, how do we get here?
It's a good question. That's everything. Whew, that's a lot this week. But until next time, where can everyone keep up with you, KB?
Per usual, Instagram and Twitter only at the Lady KB, TheLadyKayb. And you can follow me there where I post about my interviews, my reviews, where I post about Super Lady Hero Hour content, all of the above. So right now, if you feel like checking out a brand new Netflix show, you can check out Dad Stop Embarrassing Me. I interviewed Jamie Foxx and Kyla Drew, who are the two leads of the show. And I did that for Nerdophiles, and it's out now, show's out now, interviews out now. So Yell, where can everyone find you?
I'm everywhere on the internet at Yell Teagle. That's YAELTYGIEL. I also on Sundays do a show called Law and Order S Review, where we talk about the newest episode of Law and Order SVU. And if there's no new episode, we talk about older episodes. Really, we talk about SVU just because I have to talk about it and bring it up at all times. So that's where you can find me. And we will be back next week for even more stuff. If you have watched the new Netflix movie Thunder Force, check out our review of Thunder Force here on Super Lady Hero Hour. We did a special episode and it was fantastic. So check that out, and we will see you next Wednesday at our usual time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching.